Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. We are at Uber headquarters in New York City. And Ted, this panel today has a lot to talk about with the driveway process and service acquisition.
Sarah, very timely panel with our team of experts here. I want to go to the retailers first who are on the panel. So if it's okay, Tully, let me come to you first. How has the Niello company leveraged the service drive as a source for vehicle acquisition?
It's our most prized possession. When you think about what it does, it starts when they buy the car and you sell them a service contract, right? If your service contract penetration is now that customer is coming to your store, remember, repeat and referral here. They come in our service drive, we maintain that car, we keep them happy with that car, they love that brand. Why would they not want to buy another one? And guess what happens when they have all those three things? Is that car now turns into the perfect used car. It's maintained, it's fixed, and the recon is low-ish. I just say ish. But our goal is that we want to make sure that we have quality used cars, and it starts with your service drive and great customers in those cars.
And how are you leveraging the service drive over at Bozard?
The service drive is an opportunity for everything we do. This is an opportunity for service, it's an opportunity for sales. The customer comes in already questioning whether they want to keep that vehicle or not. It's giving them some trouble. They're headed coming in for service. They're saying, should I fix it? Should I buy another one? So it's an opportunity to be able to answer the questions that they already have, but not necessarily are asking.
100%.
And Brian, Kramer, what are you seeing? What strategies are effective right now?
I would say, well, when you run, especially for any dealership, but when you run the kind of repair order volume that these two are running, you don't want to, they're so fast and they're so efficient. I serviced my Bronco in 28 minutes at Ed's store. You don't want to mess that flow up. And when you're running that efficient, you want to be able to present an offer quickly. You don't want to sell. You want to kind of do the opposite of that. And you want to just make sure you're providing information in a very not molesting the customers, just they have the information available whenever they'd like it, similar to some of the online aggregators. I think every dealership needs to leverage technology so that whenever the client wants a value for their vehicle, they can get in a very non-confrontational way where it's not being sold, so that they're going to the dealer instead of going to a third-party competitor to get that information. So like an always-on strategy.
Shon, you got a big operation there with eight rooftops in Wisconsin. What are you seeing in terms of acquisition?
Huge opportunity. Again, Tully and I always say the best place to fix a car is when it's in the air. The opportunity for sales to pull out of the service drive. I think there has to be an incentive for the advisor to refer it, but the opportunity is huge. The car is already there. It's already in the air. You already know what's broken. It's literally, and chances are you're going to fix the car anyway, so the advisor or the technician is not going to lose out.
Correct.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the reconditioning process itself. And Mike, I'll come to you, and then I'd love to get some additional perspectives. But what are some of the biggest bottlenecks in the reconditioning process today, and how are dealers addressing them?
It's funny, I've been doing this for quite a while, both at the retail side and then on the vendor side with software. The biggest opportunity for a dealership back then and still today is really understanding what capacity they have, who do they have, and really what are they trying to do. So whether you're looking at the acquisition in the service lane, we have to decentralize the thought process and say, hey, are we adding benefit in everything we do? So when you're looking at your internal detail, external detail, and you're looking at your service facility, who do I have doing what? Are they the right people, and are they connected? Does everybody really understand what the end goal is? So when you think about it from that perspective, I think that's the biggest opportunity in reconditioning, is to really understand your own capabilities, but then constantly trying to evolve it. So hey, I need to add more people. I need to coach somebody up. I need to coach somebody out. And really, what are we trying to accomplish?
David, what other bottlenecks should we be considering?
I think the biggest one is the need to eliminate decision-making.
Correct.
The reality is that the vast majority of dealerships today still follow the age-old and wildly proven to be a failure process to where they get a car in, Sarah, the used car manager must look at the car. Some of them still use the the
not
pan on the
needed
windshield.
Even though they've already-
Right.
The dude just appraised the car, or the woman just appraised the car and said it needs 1,500 in recon. But then after, I gotta wait for that person to say what the car needs. Then the car goes into the shop. Then the person ultimately is going to get the car into the shop up on the rack. The technician's going to come back, see what they found. Now I got to go back and find the used car manager. Is it okay to do what you told me to do? And they go back and forth in this dance. And the reality is, when you look at every top performing store out there, they've eliminated decision making. We all know what the car needs. If you have state requirements, follow the state requirements. If you want to go with physical appearance after that, that's easy. Everybody knows what their average recon dollar amount. If you're spending $1,000, you can pre-approve $1,000. All right, so there's things that you could do to streamline that process to get the car in and out. The second thing I'll say is in California, where this gentleman is, where you have to smog a car. It's got to be smogged in safety before the car can be presented for sale. Presented for sale is not just on the front line, that means online. And what happens is cars will sit there and rot and sit there at some dealerships, not his, but in most stores they will. I can't get the pictures done online until it's smogged in safety. And I'm telling them instead, get the pictures done first, get those up day one, because the data I can tell you is irrefutable. You're gonna make maximum gross on any car sold in under 15 days. That gross gets cut in half between 16 days and 30. And after that, it largely becomes an aggregated negative gross. So it's a big deal.
I'd like to add something to that. So one of the things you said, of course, all of it's really good, right?
I know.
And it's funny that
I'm working on my stuff.
for years and years, I hear so much of the right thing, but then you get into the actual dealership world, right, in the heat of the battle, and people forget. And I always challenge people. I say, hey, when you're appraising a car, what is an appraisal? It's a reconditioning plan. You said, hey, I'm looking at this vehicle through the lens of I want to retail. If it does not meet certain requirements and I think that I cannot make enough money or do it in the amount of time to make the money, then the best end user is not me, right? We've talked about that for years. And then I need to execute on a plan to get rid of that vehicle. But if you take that vehicle in and part of your strategy was to retail it, then you shouldn't have the back and forth. You already wrote out, you should have documented.
Well, the
what I
problem is
expect
that
to
doesn't
spend.
happen in those cases.
It doesn't.
Everybody needs to go back to the basics, just like an F&I, just like an MPI, of going through the basic steps of an appraisal. That's where it begins. And that's where it's breaking
Document
apart.
everything.
Yeah.
Document everything. Because I have to be able to go back to my appraiser to make sure that they have intelligent conversations with service. Because, I mentioned decentralized. We're all in it together, right? We all want to sell more cars. We have to buy more cars to do that. If my service is disconnected from my acquisition, then we're missing the boat. We're not acquiring the way we should. We're not empowering people with the right information to make the right decision.
Unnecessary steps.
Exactly. And keep slowing things down.
Let me add one more thing. We're talking about service drive acquisitions. All what we talked about is all a bunch of baloney because we already know what the car needs, right? Right? This thing here should be in the shop the same day, if not the next day, to be reconned, and they should have authorized it. Just like Spisak said, it needs to be already authorized because we already have the price.
Right.
That is the power of a service drive. And what happens? We have two great customers. We have the customer that traded the car in, that buys a new car, and now we have a great used car customer. This is what the winner is. This is the big win for service drive acquisition.
Mark, I want to come to you and thinking about the reconditioning process. We've covered a lot of pieces, but one thing that we haven't talked about with the bottlenecks is sometimes around processes and technology.
Yes, in our case with the camera, both what David alluded to on speed being necessary, and earlier today, Brian Benstock said it is amazing how long things take to develop and how shocking when they happen. And one of the first things we got asked to teach the camera to do was as soon as a car gets on site, in fact, Ed and his partner Jeff King called it air traffic control. They told us the first thing we want you to do, Mark, is have a camera placement at our entrances and curb cuts and exits, and we want to know who's here and marry that to our Reynolds DMS. When we do that, now we've trained the camera to instantly know which vehicle, if it's going into service, what pricing they want to put on it, have the agent get that out to the customer instantly, and the speed and the ability for the customer on their terms to interact with the agent eliminate the decision-making in the back and forth needed for some of the human pieces is where technology can lean in addition to the camera knowing where the vehicle is at each time during the process, what shape it's in, what's it look like. There's a lot of other pieces once you get it trained right.
I think one other thing with the cameras as well that's really critically important, and Brian talking about AI, number one, being able to have every car that comes into that driveway to have a very fast, seamless appraisal done because it's able to trigger it off the license plate. The second thing is, we all know this in fixed, is 2 words, cycle time. Right, cycle time equals throughput, equals proficiency, equals the volume of cars that you get in and out. And when it comes to reconditioning, speed counts.
So let me tie in a few of those pieces together. We're talking about service drive acquisition, and for all of us dealers, a customer may make the decision when something's going on with their vehicle to just trade it. Well, some make the decision to come through service. Well, when they just trade it, it's really a search warrant for our technicians to go figure out what's wrong with it because they haven't been told anything that's wrong with it. And we hope they land on those things. And those are the ones that come back in your service drive that after you drive it for 2 hours, it ends up with this after you've sold it as a used car because we gave them a search warrant. And we really don't know what that recon cost is going to be. But when we work the service drive, they've already told us what's wrong with their vehicle.
Right. Yep.
And now there's an opportunity to sell them a vehicle as well. So now we have a better understanding of what we need to do with that vehicle going forward.
And to your point, Ed, the client's already told you their vehicle's broken. The defenses are already down. They're not there because they want to give us kisses and hugs. Maybe at your store. They're not. Well, maybe in store, but they're not there. They're not there because they want to be there. As you've always said, it's not convenient to come there. They're there, and the defenses are down because they already know the vehicle has an issue.
Right.
And a lot of times they're already weighing out in their minds. I mean, they're coming there for a specific reason. So they're already weighing out, okay, based on this information, it might be time to sell or trade my vehicle in. I mean, that is the most opportune time to have an intelligent discussion, to be of service to that customer, to bring them back in, right? Whether we're not selling them service, but then we're selling them on why they should sell their vehicle to us. But really, it's not even selling, you're just being of service.
And you look at, too, as a service writer, usually is the most trusted person that the customer has.
Yes.
So that customer and that relationship with the service advisor. So we want the service writer to be 100% bought in to why we've taken these acquisitions. Having your service advisors know what's going on, the process that happens is so critical to make it happen.
And having them adequately compensate for that attention.
100%.
You can't break that apart, right? They have to have some skin in the game.
But it has to also be seamless too, because there's a survey on the hook here, okay? And if you're going to promise an appraisal on the vehicle, the appraisal has to be there because the client's waiting for it.
Yes.
And the advisor's the one that could take the hit. Once or twice after that, they're just going to stop asking.
It has to be efficient and intelligent. You might know something about that,
It
right?
should be accurate too.
Correct.
It has to be within that range, but the CPRO, customer pay RO, needs to go, as an internal ticket, needs to go back to that advisor.
Correct.
To make sure.
And to the technician too.
Yes.
Otherwise, they'll stop looking as well.
Because then you're penalizing them for doing
If I have to ask the question of our retailers on the panel, and Shon and Ed and Tully, don't be shy about this, all right? What are you doing to integrate that recon timeline with retail pricing? How are you doing that? Brian Kramer has talked about pricing a whole lot over the last couple of years. Shon, maybe an example of some things that you're doing.
Well, I think, first of all, our retail rate is our door rate. I wish it was our warranty rate. Tully and I had that conversation earlier. But our retail rate is our door rate. But we also have to understand that it's about communication and timing, okay? And I know Tully and I are going to be on a panel later about parts acquisition, okay? There's some bad words that go with it, but you got to find the part because time is everything. And I think communications, Tully has championed the leaderboards, and we have it in all our stores. We have our recon time on the leaderboards. Because everybody needs to know what that means to the dealership, that you can't put the cart out back as you're waiting for a widget that we don't want to pay $10 extra for. When $10 is a couple minutes. The car's in the air, that's when you have to fix it.
Correct.
So I'll chime in on that as well. We're in the parts and service and sales business.
Correct.
Meaning we're not in the parts or service or sales business. So if a vehicle comes in for service, we acquire it in that service drive, we still should get that parts and service repair as the sale.
Correct.
So it's retail. It's retail across the board because we're one business operating together, not individual silos fighting against each other.
I think the thing I'll add to that is you do have an internal advisor that is solely focused on making sure that that car gets in and out in less than 3 days, right? We use 3 days as our number, and there is a bonus tied to it. They're not getting paid on gross or whatever. They're getting paid on cycle time. So that person there is now making sure those jobs get done. The parts are coming. Having the focus of their pay plan on time gets the cars out in time. As a group, we are under 3 days, and that was all because of a pay plan.
I have a lightning round for the group, and I'd love to go down the line starting with Mark. This is a question that I think a lot of dealers are going to be paying attention to, but if you could pick one metric that leaders should be tracking to improve ROI in this part of the fixed ops process, what would it be?
The easy lift. I think that, as Brian Bensuck said earlier, the data is where it's at. And if you go towards the data-driven decisions, you can look at repair order count, you can look at inventory history, and you can know month over month what you're selling off the drive. And when you put a new tool in, say you want to go camera to text agent, is it providing lift and result instead of murky ROI or gut feelings? That would be my answer.
David, your lightning round. What one metric should we be looking at?
For acquisition or recon?
For ROI on any part of this fixed ops process.
Well, when it comes to acquisition, I think it's very simply the number of appraisals you're able to deliver. You know, it's interesting, every dealership I speak to says the biggest challenge is acquisition, and I remind them that you're getting 500 internet leads, that you're getting 250 phone calls, you get 150 people walked in, and you have 50 people driving through your drive voluntarily with their car. Every day, 1,000 people. So you have 1,500 to 2,000. The important thing is measuring the facts of what percentage of the total available vehicles, and not the percentage of the cars you sold, or even just the percentage of the cars you wrote up. And as far as recon, it's simple. He said it. Put the line in the ground. It's 3 days. We've been talking about it for 35 years. It's probably time to get that figured out. Get the car in and out. The market doesn't care how long it takes you to get your car or how long to get it out of the shop. At 15 days, it's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
Tully, what one metric?
Cycle time, 100% for us. That's all we care about.
Ed,
An hour. So I'll be a little different on that. It doesn't matter what the KPI is. It matters that you set one and you measure it.
Correct.
Because a lot of times we do something, we throw it out there, we hope that we get a better result, and we have no way of measuring it. It doesn't matter which KPI you chase. One KPI will drive the rest.
And you hold them
Pick
accountable
one,
to it.
set an expectation, and measure against it.
Amen, brother.
Brian.
David Spisak brought up what I thought was the highest ROI impact from acquisition, no question. But I would say, I'm going to throw this out there. If I was go back into retail tomorrow, the first thing I would be looking at every single day, just like they do in the sales department, is how many website visitors do I have on my service pages? And am I growing it, and what is it month over month? And that's, I think, one of the biggest errors, and it's one of the things that all the marketing departments and all the dealerships don't spend enough money on because they don't track it. It's not top of mind, and it needs to be talked about on a weekly basis.
Mike.
So from acquisition to recondition, I really consider them one and the same. I would say idle time. So we talk about tracking the metrics and cycle time, and they're all great answers and they're all true. But rather than just concentrating on how long it's going to take you to detail or service a car, it's how much time is being wasted through mismanagement or miscommunication or lack of communication at all to even let somebody know that it's time to do work. I think if you concentrate on those little pieces, that will really expose a lot of the greater opportunity. And that's how you can really put the focus on the right areas, because now you have the information and the data that we're all clearly saying we need.
Shon, bring us home.
Pay plans drive behavior. If you want to fix cycle time, you want to fix acquisition, tie your pay plan to it, and it all just fixes itself. That creates accountability.
Well, what a great panel, everybody. With the retail superstars, we are here at Uber headquarters in Manhattan at the World Trade Center. Sarah Vantine and I are working with some of the best in retail. Sarah and I will be right back. Thanks, Grace.